College football fans, welcome back to the Big Ten Quick Talk podcast. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, share with a friend. We're trying to build up this Big Ten Quick Talk army. And today's topic will feature three teams in the Big Ten Conference that I think could compete for the Big Ten title. Those are my standards. I think they could get a couple upsets, surprise some people that are just casual, that don't really follow the Big Ten as much as diehards like me do. All right, we're going to start off with number one, my number one team here, Northwestern. Northwestern, probably the greatest coaching job I've ever seen from a head coach in a very long time, from Scott Braun. Their head coach there, they were predicted to go 2-10 by literally every single person, and they went 8-4 and beating a very good, but injury depleted Utah team. They beat Utah, excuse me. Their schedule, it's a little bit challenging. I'm not going to lie. They play some pretty tough teams. They play Ohio State and Michigan back to back. They play some pretty darn good teams and up-and-coming teams in Iowa and Wisconsin, and then they also play Washington. But besides that, it's pretty easy, and I expect them to win most of their games past that. And they are lacking at skill positions, which is what worries me. They're not very good at wide receiver and tight end, and running back's a little subject, but they play. Scott Braun has established an identity there. They're going to hit you hard, and they're going to play very good defense. And they do have Ben Bryant coming back, their quarterback that they got last year from Cincinnati. There you go. That they got from Cincinnati, and he played very well in the games that he played in. So I expect him to play very well, and I think that this Northwestern team can upset. I feel very reluctant to say that they're going to upset Michigan in Ann Arbor or Ohio State, but I feel like they can definitely go to Iowa and play very well. They can go to Washington and play very well. They can play Wisconsin very well. I think that they win one or two of those games out of the three that I listed there. Moving on. I wasn't going to include them in this list, but I think Nebraska has a chance to be a very, very dark horse. And this is what I mean by that, because, for the past 7-8 years, they've been a dumpster fire. They really have. Let's say what it is, honestly. But then you get Dylan Raiola, the best quarterback by pretty much every site on three rivals, ESPN. He's basically neck and neck with the Julian Saying as the best quarterback, but that's not really debatable because we're not going to see him. But we're going to see Dylan Raiola starting as a quarterback, and there's a little uncertainty around that. He's great in the Polynesian Bowl. He's great against other high schools, literally elite. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. He is basically Patrick Mahomes. His trainer is Patrick Mahomes' trainer. But there's a little uncertainty. How is he going to handle some Big Ten defenses? But he's going to get some help here because their schedule is incredibly easy. They're playing Colorado. Colorado, we know who they are now. That should be a game that Nebraska could potentially win. It's going to be a very good game. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be played in Lincoln, which is going to help because they have one of the best fan bases in the country, and that is evident by their sellout streak, which is one of the largest, I think, in all of pro sports. But you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, and probably the toughest one is Colorado or Rutgers, and both of those games are at home. And then you have your bye week. Then they do play at Indiana, then Ohio State, so they could be 7-0 or 6-1 by the time they reach Ohio State. They'll probably lose that game, but then you play UCLA at USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and you can pull out one or two of those. And I expect, and this team could potentially go 8-4, 9-3, which is a drastic turnaround from the end of that Scott Frost era, which was so bad. So, Nebraska, they play great defense, number 14th nationally last year. Not many people realize it, and they got better because they got a couple transfers in. So I think they definitely have some suspect positions there. Their offensive line is just average. They got a couple wide receivers, but those you just don't know yet. But we're going to move on from them to Rutgers, which is my last team. Their schedule is pretty darn manageable. Excuse me. Really, the best team that they play is at home versus Washington. And who knows how Washington is going to play coming from one side of the country to the other and playing which is what is assumed to be a early game. And they're probably their toughest away game is going to be either at USC or at Nebraska. And you have the rest of your schedule is pretty darn easy. So I think that they can, and Greg Schiano has established this tough physical defense and physical offense. You saw in the bowl game, their leading rusher, and I don't know if he's coming back or not. I think he is, and that he led the Big Ten in rushing as well. And I think that they're going to do that. Their only weakness is QB play. Gavin Wimsatt's not a good quarterback. We're going to say it outright. He's not a good quarterback. Let's move on from that and say that Rutgers is going to be 8-4, 9-3, and possibly contending for a Big Ten championship if they get an upset or two and maybe get to 10 wins. And that's what we mean by dark horse here. We're not predicting these teams to do it. We're not predicting these teams to go 8, 9-3, 10-2. But these are teams that have the potential to do it. Northwestern, Nebraska, and Rutgers. These teams, it's a random assortment, I know. But these are teams that have the potential to wreak some havoc in the Big Ten next year. They have easy schedules. Northwestern's is a little bit challenging. They all have their weaknesses, and they all have some very bright spots on their teams. I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe, comment your thoughts down below. I want to hear if you agree with me with these teams, or do you think there's another Big Ten team that deserves to be on this list? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to see them. So comment those down below. Like the video, subscribe, share, and click the bell so that you're alerted when more content comes out. I will see you in the next one. Peace.